Chapter 2386. In the end, he realized that his distant cousin-in-law's granddaughter was actually doing a live broadcast of her dancing. From what she said, it seemed to be a competition. What was she saying? "I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose. Big brothers, you guys are deliberately watching me lose and get punished, right?" Father Tang watched as the young lady sang and danced. She even smiled at the camera and called him a big brother. He was instantly enraged. He directly pushed open the door. Before the young lady could react, he went up and scolded her. "You're so bad at such a young age. You're flirting with people on the internet. You're so bad. Did cousin-in-law not teach you well? Are you agreeing on the surface, but going against me behind my back?" "Hi," the young lady was stunned by the scolding. "Your parents must have taught you bad things. If you grew up in cousin-in-law's house, you wouldn't have learned bad things." Before the young lady could react and the audience in the live broadcast room didn't know what was going on, Father Tang directly smashed all the equipment. The audience in the live broadcast room only knew that the screen had turned black. For a moment, they were very anxious. The young lady was scared to tears. Even though she was already 19 years old, Father Tang's actions really scared her to death. In the end, the whole family found out that Father Tang had smashed the young lady's live broadcast equipment. Seeing so many people looking at him, he still said calmly, "She's addicted to the internet at such a young age. She's flirting in front of the camera. She's bad. You guys have to teach her well." If it weren't for the fact that there were basically no online schools now, he really wanted to ask them to send this bad girl to jail for 2 days. The young lady was very aggrieved and kept crying. The distant cousin-in-law's family looked very upset, especially the young lady's parents. They were angry and couldn't care less about anything. They said a series of words. "Live broadcasting isn't something bad. Don't speak so harshly. Our family's girl earns 40 to 50,000 yuan a month. What do you mean flirting? She's bad. Aren't your words a little too harsh?" The others echoed, saying that the young lady did live broadcasting as a hobby. She didn't do anything illegal or out of line. She just sang and danced. She earned 40 to 50,000 yuan a month. Her ability to earn money was amazing. The whole family saw the young lady as their pride. Even the distant cousin-in-law and her husband looked at her lovingly. Father Tang was in a daze for a moment and didn't know what to say. He wanted to say something, but before he could say anything, he was chased out. "Since you don't like my family's girls so much, let's not interact with each other in the future." On the 3rd day of the new year, the two of them were chased out in a sorry state. When they got home, both of them were sick. With this illness, his body became weaker and weaker. However, they had already offended all their relatives. Even if they hadn't offended all of them, they didn't want to interact with them anymore. No matter where they went, they could hear people talking about Tanghua. Later on, even when they watched TV, they would occasionally see Tanghua's figure on one of the channels. She was like a shadow. As long as there was light, she would be there. They couldn't avoid her. When they heard the people outside talking about Tanghua, they would quickly leave and cover their faces. "Look, it's them. They don't want their own daughter and adopted a swindler as their daughter. For the sake of that swindler's daughter, they even chased their own daughter out. I heard that their daughter is a first-generation streamer. She must have had a lot of courage back then. I'm a little impressed by her. If I hadn't persevered, I'm afraid I wouldn't have achieved what I have today." Chapter 2387. Not to mention now, even in the past, if my daughter could earn a few thousand yuan a month, let alone a few 100,000 yuan, I would support her as long as she didn't do anything illegal. That's right. It's your own child. If you don't support her when she has the ability to do this, do you want to stop her? I think there's something wrong with their brains. I heard that they even sent Tanggua to a rehab school 7 times. Oh my God, if it were me, I'd rather leave this place and never come back. These 2 people are really too ruthless. They're too much of a scum. Is a rehab school a place for people to stay? Luckily, those things don't exist anymore. Now, if you want to set up a school, the higher-ups are very strict. They are afraid that those things will mislead the students. The 2 of them ran back home and fell sick again. Dear host, I have good news for you. Su Shan found Lin Yuhong. The system reported the news to Tanguo with a smile. However, Lin Yuhong had already spent all her money. Previously, she found an opportunity to go abroad. Now that so much time has passed and no one is pursuing the matter, she came back. She probably wanted to do her old job, but she was found by Su Shan. What did Su Shan do to her? No, Lin Yuhong's methods are superb. She said that she was cheated. She still did the same thing, crying by his side. She said that he is the best. It's just that she hasn't been able to get over it all these years. I think she is an honest person. She hasn't gotten married all these years. She wants to cheat 2 more people out. Su Shan's salary is not low. He doesn't smoke or drink, so he must have saved a lot. Li Yuhong thought about it and went home with Su Shan. Oh, why do I feel that Su Shan is not that stupid? You should pay more attention to him. Don't let him kill anyone. If something is wrong, call the police immediately. As for Lin Yuhong, when the time comes, hand in the evidence. Although she did a good thing, cheating is cheating. She will still be punished. Okay. Dear host, you are still very evil. However, these people were asking for it. Dear host, Tang Jinghua and Zhang Yuehua are not doing well now. They fall sick once every 3 to 5 days. Basically, every time they hear someone mention you, they will fall sick. They are so pitiful. The last time they went to the bank to do business, they realized that all the business was done by machines. The bank's counter was removed. If it weren't for the support staff, they might have been worried to death. Needless to say, this couple would live under the shadow of their host for the rest of their lives. They would suffer together for the rest of their lives. What they cared about the most, their dignity, had long been lost. Moreover, Madam Host often appears on TV now. She's always invited by the TV stations. The couple liked to watch TV, so it was easy for them to watch the TV show. After Lin Yuhong went back with Su Shan, she thought that she could still do something. She didn't expect that when she woke up the next day, she would be locked in the house by Su Shan. What followed was a week of very dark days. She dared to guarantee that she would never experience such a painful day again in her life. She thought she was going to die, but the door was knocked open and she was saved. Oh no, she wasn't saved, because what awaited her were not only paramedics, but also cold handcuffs. It was the same for Su Shan. He would not be able to escape imprisonment. The couple had always lived in the shadow of Tanggua, but they still had a long life ahead of them. Today, it was Tanggua's live stream again. Other than when she had to go on a show, she would always live stream. Now, she was already a super streamer. Back then, the people who were in the same generation as her had either changed careers, earned enough money to do other things, or were outdated. She was the only one who was still standing there, an existence that no one else could surpass. However, her live stream didn't have the most fans. The live stream streamer with the most fans was called Today's Highlights. Even though he was married to Tanggua, Qin Pan still couldn't change his habit of moving his fingers and sending her a bunch of gifts when Tanggua was live streaming. When he heard the fans jeering, his heart didn't waver. He might have forgotten that he was beside Tang Guo when she was live streaming today. Seeing that he had sent her so many gifts, Tang Guo said subconsciously, "Ah Pan, don't send so many gifts. Just send some free stars as a token of appreciation. You sent so much money, and you even gave away a piece. Wouldn't it be a loss if you deducted the tax? Have you forgotten that you're married? Your money is all mine. Even if you don't feel the pinch, I do." The fan said, "Brother-in-law, sister told you to send less gifts. You're already married, yet you're still hiding money. Do you want to kneel on the washboard at night?" In the face of the countless comments from the fans, Qin Pan put down his phone and looked at Tang Guo innocently. "I know, wifey." The fans who had been fed countless dog foods said that they were so full that they were burping after the live stream. Chapter 2388. Madam Host, how do you feel? Have you adapted to your new body? The system looked into the big tank, ignoring the fish that was swimming in the water, and asked carefully, this time, "It's not a mermaid, but a carp. Host, do you have any thoughts?" This was an abandoned temple, and Tang Guo was in one of the big tanks in the temple. Luckily, the water tank was placed outside, and it rained every 3 to 5 days, so the water tank would not dry up. Without water, the fish would not be able to survive. Tang Guo floated her head out of the water and communicated with the system. "I am already used to it. Help me keep a lookout. I am going to receive the memories first." When she was adapting to her new body, she felt that this body was not an ordinary fish. There was a mysterious power in it. If she guessed correctly, this world should be the immortal and demon world, where fish could become spirits. After receiving the memories, it was indeed the immortal and demon world. Of course, there was also a human world. Basically, in this world's storyline, these characters would appear. As for her identity, she was indeed a carp. But she was different from ordinary carps. She was a koi. That's right. She was the kind of koi that could give blessings. Of course, it did not mean that everything would come true, but there was a certain probability. But if she expended her energy to give blessings, it would definitely come true. As for whether she could make wishes come true, it would depend on how powerful she was. But this kind of 100% success rate would cause her to expend a lot of energy. Even though she knew she had the ability, she had never thought of doing it. Usually, when she was in a good mood, she would casually give blessings. This way, she would not expend any energy or bring any harm to herself. If the blessings came true, it would even help her sleep. Originally, she was not sleeping here. She was in a place with beautiful scenery. That place was not only beautiful, but also rich in spiritual energy. It was very suitable for her. The main thing was that it was far away from human habitation and wouldn't be disturbed by others. The original owner of the body was a carp spirit who was determined to leap over the dragon gate and become an immortal. If she hadn't accidentally been brought to this dilapidated temple and met someone she shouldn't have met, she would have leaped over without hesitation when the dragon gate opened. She would have successfully achieved Tao and reached a different level. She would have broken away from the body of a spirit, cultivated a Tao body, and become immortal. Unfortunately, she had been deliberately brought to this dilapidated temple by someone. She had even met that person and was attracted to him. Before Tang Guo came, this person had already met her and knew that she was a carp spirit. This person's name was Su Shi. He was the only son of Squire Su from the town at the foot of the mountain. Squire Su's ancestor had once been a jinsher, but after that, he didn't have any more shiozai. Therefore, generations after generations had hoped that their family could produce another person who could pass the imperial examinations and bring honor to their ancestors, bringing the family to a higher level. For some reason, no matter how many concubines Squire Su took, in the end, he only had Su Shi, Madame Su's only son. The other concubines either didn't get pregnant or only gave birth to daughters. Now, Squire Su was almost 60 years old. These years, he had taken in concubines one after another and had given birth to daughters one after another. He gradually despaired, thinking that he didn't have many children. Chapter 2389. Su Shi, who was not a scholar, was forced to do something beyond his ability. In order to let him pass the exam, Squire Su even drove him to the ruined temple on the mountain. Of course, he had to eat and drink. He also specially cleaned a clean room for him and left a little boy to bring him food and grind ink every day. He told Su Shi that only after he passed the exam could he go down the mountain and live a good life. If he didn't pass the exam, he would have to study on the mountain and was not allowed to go down the mountain to fool around with his classmates. If he couldn't pass the exam when he was 35 years old, Squire Su would make the decision to marry a concubine and give birth to a son for his son to take the exam. For this reason, Su Shi was very distressed, but the arm couldn't twist the thigh. Not to mention leaving his father, he would be caught as soon as he walked out of the town. In this small town, his father was the local bully. Besides, he was the son of Squire Su. If he went out, he would have nothing. It might be worse than studying in the ruined temple. Therefore, Su Shi compromised. In fact, he also wanted to pass the exam. Who didn't want to pass the exam? It was a matter of bringing glory to their ancestors. In his heart, Su Shi was also a filial child. He knew that the hope of the whole family now fell on him. Whether he could pass the exam or not, he had to pass it. Wasn't it just studying hard on the mountain for more than 10 years? Then he would study hard for more than 10 years. If he really couldn't pass the exam, it was his fate. At that time, he would listen to his father, marry a concubine and give birth to a son. He would let his son do everything. He could live a happy life without doing anything. Su Shi came to the ruined temple 3 years ago. Before he came, the original owner had been in the water tank. Although she was a carp spirit, she was dedicated to cultivation. Even if she moved to another place, it was nothing to her. Moreover, she was a carp. With her ability, she couldn't stay outside for too long. She didn't know how far this ruined temple was from the place where she cultivated, so she didn't dare to walk around. She planned to cultivate here for a while. When her ability improved, she would leave. Unexpectedly, Su Shi came. In the first few days, the two lived under the same roof in peace. Su Shi didn't find her. This continued until one night, when a violent sound came from the sky. Heavy rain poured down, breaking down the old beams of the house, and was about to fall on Su Shi. When the original owner saw this, it was impossible for him to not save him. At that time, he jumped out of the water tank and transformed into his human form. He directly flew over and saved Su Shi from the roof beam. At that time, Su Shi was startled awake. He just happened to see a fish fly in front of him and then turn into a red-clothed beauty. Then, he was saved by this red-clothed beauty in a daze. From then on, the two became familiar with each other. Su Shi quickly accepted the fact that he was living in the same temple as a carp spirit. When he was tired of reading, he would lie on the water tank and talk to the carp spirit who was spitting out bubbles while cultivating. He told her everything. He dug out all of his secrets and told her all of the wonderful stories he had told her. Of course, ever since Su Shi came, he would change the water for her every day. Although the errand boy didn't understand why his master had to change the water for a carp every day, his master had said that it was very boring for his master to study alone in the temple. He didn't secretly go down the mountain to fool around with other people. It was just a fun thing to raise a carp. Squire Su didn't have any objection. The little errand boy naturally helped Su Shi do everything. he didn't dare to say anything. Chapter 2390. The little attendant naturally didn't know that the original owner was a spirit. After saving Sushi last time, she had not shown her true body again. Seeing that Sushi was not a bad person, sending people to change the water for her every day, she had a good impression of him. Saving him was not in vain. In fact, Sushi often teased the original owner, wanting her to show her true body. The original owner was focused on cultivation and simply ignored it. But Sushi was a very active person. In the eyes of many people, he was not suitable for studying at all. But his ancestors were too persistent. They once vowed that every generation of descendants would take the exam. Whether they passed or not, they had to take the exam until they were 35 years old. At this time, if they didn't pass, they were allowed to marry and have children, letting their sons take the exam. Sushi was very good at making people happy. He would ask the little attendant to go down the mountain to buy some small things for the original owner. When he was resting, he would specially buy some girls' items for her. The original owner, who had no emotional experience, was gradually moved. She knew that Sushi also hoped that he could take the exam. Unfortunately, he was not born to study. As a koi spirit, she could see that Sushi was not enlightened in this aspect. No matter how many years he studied, it was impossible for him to take the exam. Because she had been moved by Sushi, she planned to use her ability to help him. She knew a kind of spirit fruit that could be enlightened after eating it. After being enlightened, no matter what you learned, you would get twice the result with half the effort. You would even have a photographic memory. It just so happened that she calculated that she had arrived at a nearby mountain that was bearing this kind of spiritual fruit. However, wherever there was a spirit fruit, there would be a guardian. If you were not lucky or stronger than the other side, it was impossible to pick the spirit fruit. In order to help Sushi, she did not hesitate to lose a part of her power. Before Sushi went out, she said a blessing that was 100% accurate. Although there will be various setbacks on the way to pick the spirit fruit, with Gongzi's efforts, you will eventually be able to get the spirit fruit safely. Because of the loss of that part of her power, she could not transform into a human form for the time being. It would take a long time to recover. Because of her blessing, even if the spiritual monster guarding the spirit fruit was very powerful, Sushi took the opportunity to pluck the fruit, swallowed it, and ran away quickly because his enemies suddenly came knocking on his door. Even if the spiritual monster realized that something was amiss and saw Sushi, it was still unable to chase after Sushi as it was being pursued by its enemy. In the end, the spiritual monster was severely injured by its enemy and its lair was taken over. It could only escape to another place and recuperate in seclusion. However, since Sushi had stolen his spirit fruit, he would definitely seek revenge in the future. After Sushi ate the spirit fruit, he was enlightened and became intelligent. He even had a photographic memory. He was very happy to be able to read 10 lines at a glance. Because all of this was brought to him by the original owner, he sent people to bring her many small things. The original owner, who had already been moved, would say one sentence every day: Gongzi will definitely be in the top 10. Sushi also gradually became moved by this carp spirit. He even said that when he was in the top 10, he would come back and marry her. Since her heart had already been moved, the original owner could no longer focus on cultivation. She planned to break off this mortal bond. When Sushi's lifespan was over, their fate would end, and she would cultivate again. Chapter 2391. Since then, she wholeheartedly accompanied Sushi in his studies. However, one of them was sitting on a chair while the other was swimming in a water tank. In order to be able to be with Sushi, she worked hard to cultivate and increase her strength. Only when she was strong could she transform into a human for a long time and not bring any danger to Sushi. Because of Sushi's promise, on the day Sushi went down the mountain to pass the imperial examinations, she didn't hesitate to use up a bit of her strength to bless him. Young master will definitely pass the imperial examinations. When Sushi passed the imperial examinations, Squire Su had the idea of moving his family to the capital. Later, he did the same. In fact, the day Sushi left was also the day the entire Su family moved to the capital. As for the old residence, only a servant was left behind to look after it. When Sushi left, he thought that after he passed the imperial examinations, he would definitely come back to marry the original Sushi. Sushi's road to becoming an imperial scholar was very smooth because he met the original Sushi's various fortuitous encounters. In the end, he relied on his eloquence and true learning to gain the recognition of the emperor and was appointed as the top scholar in the Golden Imperial Palace. The current Princess Pei Jiaran was the female lead of this world. The two met in the capital and didn't know each other's identity at first, so they chatted happily. Sushi didn't know why, but when he first saw Pei Jiaran, he felt that she was very close and couldn't help but want to get closer to her. Therefore, when Pei Jiaran invited him to poetry recitals, he never refused. At first, he thought that he had some special fetish and wanted to get close to her but was afraid of doing so. Later, he inadvertently found out that Pei Jiaran was a girl and was relieved. At this time, he thought of the original Sushi and his promise that after he passed the imperial examinations, he would return to marry her. In fact, he felt a bit of regret. The reason why he said those words was because he mistook gratitude and a little bit of affection for the person he liked. When he met Pei Jiaran, he knew what true love was. The person he wanted to marry was actually Pei Jiaran. Later, the emperor betrothed Princess Pei Jiaran to him. He couldn't refuse the emperor's imperial edict. His heart was happy, but also a bit nervous. Because he knew that the original Sushi was a very powerful carp spirit, he was afraid that the other party would find out about his marriage with the princess. But it was impossible for him to give up his beloved princess. If he rejected the emperor's betrothal, not only would he lose the princess, but his entire family would be implicated as well. If the emperor was unhappy, he might wipe out their entire family. He looked at the princess who was smiling like a delicate flower beside him, and then looked at his aged parents who were smiling at him with gratified smiles. In the end, Sushi made a decision. He sent someone back to inform the original owner that he had encountered bandits on the way and had died. Only if she thought he was dead would she not come looking for him. He had once heard her say that her wish was to become an immortal through cultivation. Because of his appearance, she was no longer able to focus on her cultivation. She needed to spend a lifetime with him to end their mortal bonds. Once his lifespan ended, she would be able to cultivate again. Now that he had spread the news that he had been killed by the bandits, it could be considered that his life had come to an end, ending the fate between them. Then she could concentrate on cultivating. He arranged for some people to pass by the temple, and let them mention his name there. She wouldn't run around. If someone were to talk about his life or death, she would definitely hear it. Then, he would have achieved his goal. Vertex. Chapter 2392. After sending this news back, he was able to marry the princess with a clear conscience and become the emperor's son-in-law. Every day, he played with the princess and his days were very happy. However, he didn't know that when the original owner found out about his death, she hated the bandits who killed him to the core. If it wasn't for the fact that she was still weak, she would have already gone out to find the bandits who killed him for revenge. She had concentrated on cultivating for 5 years and was finally able to stay on land for a long time without having to soak in the water. She followed the road to the capital and searched all the bandits in the surrounding area. If she couldn't find out who killed him, she killed them all. They were all bandits anyway, so it didn't matter if she killed them. After killing all the bandits, the hatred in her heart was resolved. She planned to take a stroll around the capital before returning to the small stream in the mountains to cultivate. The fish leaping over the dragon's gate and becoming an immortal was still the dream of every fish. She wandered around the capital for several days and didn't meet Sushi. When she was eating in the hall of a restaurant, Sushi was preparing to come down when he suddenly saw the red-clothed woman sitting in the hall eating. He didn't dare to face her right now and quickly hid. He waited until she left before sneaking away. When he returned to the princess' residence, he claimed to be sick. The friends who came to ask him out in the past, when they found out that he was sick, they could only leave regretfully. Sushi sent people to keep an eye on the original owner. Half a month later, when she left the capital, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Later, he found out that the bandits on the road to and from the capital had all been killed. He didn't know who did it, but they died without a trace. The stench lingered for several days before they were discovered. The merchants who came and went were happy, thinking that it was a hero who did good deeds. Only Sushi knew that it was most likely the original owner who did it. Thinking about how she came all the way to the capital to get revenge for him, his heart was complicated and he felt a bit guilty. But he didn't have time to feel complicated before the original owner came back. She kicked open the door of the princess' residence and took him away. All of this happened too quickly and Sushi didn't have time to react. Later, she found out that not long after the original owner left the capital, someone stopped her and told her that Sushi didn't die. Instead, he had married the current princess, Page Yaren, and became the emperor's son-in-law. Although the other party had tried to sow discord as soon as he arrived, it was all Sushi's doing, so there was no way he could deny it. She was skeptical. When the other party brought her to the princess's residence and saw Sushi chatting happily with Page Yaren, she was furious. She kicked the door open and rushed in to take Sushi away. Page Yaren didn't know why she called for Sushi to come in. However, the original owner was too fast. By the time Sushi came in, Page Yaren already had no idea where they were. The person who told the original owner that Sushi wasn't dead was also a spirit. Moreover, he had a grudge with the original owner and Sushi. Back then, he had been waiting for a wisdom fruit to ripen for a long time. He didn't expect that Sushi's luck would become good because of the original owner's blessing. Not only did his enemies find him, but the wisdom fruit was also eaten by Sushi. Back then, he was severely injured by his enemy and luckily escaped with his life. Originally, he would have needed more than 100 years to recover. However, he had a fortuitous encounter. A mysterious person found him and asked him to destroy the relationship between Sushi and Princess Page Yaren. The other party's condition was to heal his injuries and give him a wisdom fruit. Vertex. Chapter 2393. He thought that there would be benefits and he could take revenge, so he naturally agreed. After Sushi was captured, he transformed into a great demon hunter and became the imperial preceptor of the current dynasty. After Sushi was taken away, the princess died of depression. After the emperor knew of this person's ability, he quickly made him the imperial tutor and ordered him to catch the demon and save Sushi. This person was a black bear spirit called Ban Tai. Although he looked tall and burly, his skin was dark and he didn't look like a master. But after he showed his ability, both the emperor and Page Yaren believed in his ability. They said that as long as he could get rid of the demon and save the prince consort, they would definitely give him a generous revenge. The emperor took out hundreds of thousands of years old ginseng, which attracted the black bear spirit. He agreed on the surface, but not only did he want to kill the original owner, he also wanted to kill Sushi. The original owner didn't do anything to Sushi, she just caught him in the mountains and threw him aside. After waiting for a few days, she asked him why he lied to her. At this time, Sushi didn't dare to hide it. He said that after meeting Page Yaren, his heart couldn't hold anyone else. He also couldn't go against the emperor's marriage. If he did, his family and clan would be executed. He also said that if she wasn't angry, she could kill him directly to vent her anger, as long as she let the princess and his family go. Sushi said it firmly, but it was also a gamble. He had been with her for so many years, so he more or less understood her personality. If he told her everything honestly, she probably wouldn't do anything to him. Sure enough, he made the right bet. The original owner slapped him a few times and threw him down the mountain. When Sushi was found, Page Yarin asked him what happened. In front of the original owner, he could tell the truth, but with Page Yarin's personality and possessiveness, he didn't dare to tell the truth. Once he said it, it would definitely affect their relationship. The main thing was that he was afraid that Page Yarin would feel uncomfortable and find trouble with the original owner. At that time, he would be taught a lesson. In fact, he was also worried about Page Yarin's comfort. Before, he felt that the original owner's ability had become stronger, and ordinary people couldn't deal with her. He didn't tell the truth, but Page Yarin didn't intend to let the original owner go. She asked Ban Tai, who was already the state teacher, to help deal with the original owner. Ban Tai was worried that the original owner would release Sushi. Now wasn't the opportunity to sow discord. He had a magic weapon given to him by the mysterious man, which could bind the original owner. The original owner was finally tied up. He found a mountain and planned to burn the original owner to death. When the original owner died, he would reveal this news to Sushi. At that time, there would definitely be a gap between him and the princess. Wouldn't it be like sowing discord after taking revenge? She didn't expect Sushi to know about it beforehand. While Sushi was angry, he hurriedly went to save the original owner. Page Yarin followed him in a panic. Later on, Sushi took the risk to open the Dharma artifact and released the original owner of the body. Ban Tai took the opportunity to give Sushi a fatal blow. Page Yarin didn't even hesitate to block it. At that time, Sushi revealed a look of despair. When the original owner saw this scene, she broke free from the magic tool that trapped her. She dissolved Ban Tai's attack and severely injured him. Old monsters like Ban Tai all had their own means of escape. Knowing that he was no match for them, he hurriedly fled. In the end, the original owner returned to the mountains and planned to concentrate on cultivation. Vertex. Chapter 2394. When Sushi and Page Yarin returned to the princess residence, Sushi was very touched when Page Yarin sacrificed herself to save him. The original owner was saved again, and the gap between them was gone. Originally, things should have ended here. The original owner continued to cultivate, and the two of them lived happily ever after. However, as mentioned before, someone wanted to destroy the relationship between Sushi and Page Yarin. They would not let it go so easily. A few years later, when the original owner was preparing to jump through the dragon gate, Page Yarin found her at the place where the fish jumped through the dragon gate. She knelt down and begged her to save Sushi because Sushi was dying. For this, not only did she kowtow to her, she also said all kinds of good things. She even said that as long as she was willing to save Sushi, she would give up on Sushi. Maybe it was because she thought of the past, or maybe she had not forgotten Sushi. Even though she was angry at the beginning, Sushi still risked his life to save her. She could not leave Sushi alone and jump through the dragon gate herself. Therefore, she chose to go back to save Sushi. After using more than half of her power, Sushi was finally saved. When she went back to cultivate, she was ambushed by the black bear spirit and was killed by the black bear spirit Ban Tai. When Sushi woke up and found out that it was the original owner who saved him, he was very touched. Later, he found out from Page Yarin that the original owner went back to the mountain to cultivate. He was relieved. When he found out that Page Yarin begged the original owner for his sake, he was even more touched and decided that he would not let her down in this life. Thus, the two of them lived happily ever after. The story did not end here. The two of them left together. On the day of death, the sun shone brightly and flowers bloomed. Their souls slowly floated out of their bodies, and at the same time, they remembered their past. It turned out that they were the children of the Heavenly Realm star officials. However, because their fathers were not on good terms, their love was hindered. In the end, the matter blew up and reached the Heavenly Emperor. The Heavenly Emperor gave them a compromise. He allowed them to go down to the mortal world and experience all kinds of tests. As long as they passed the tests, they could continue to be together when they returned. No one could stop them. If they could not pass the tests, they were destined not to be together. When they returned to the Heavenly Realm, no one mentioned this matter. The two of them agreed to go down to the mortal world. Pei Jiaran went to the royal family and became a princess. Su Shi, on the other hand, had joined a member's family to pass the imperial examinations and obtain scholarly honors so that he could marry her in the future. However, neither Su Shi's father, military star lord, nor Pei Jiaran's father, 9 luminary star official, wanted them to be together. Even if the two of them didn't discuss it, they had a tacit understanding to create all kinds of trouble for them. Originally, Su Shi had planned to become the martial arts champion. After all, he was the son of military star. It would be easy for him to become the martial arts champion. In the end, military star lord created trouble for him, forcing him to be the top scholar for generations. It was very difficult for the son of military star lord to be the top scholar. If he didn't become the top scorer, then he would miss out on the female lead, Pei Jiaran. However, the 9 brilliant star official did something stupid. He accidentally found a cultivating carp spirit, which was the original owner. Occasionally, he would see her in human form, and she was very beautiful. He thought of military star and his vulgar son. They must have liked this kind of beautiful girl. He thought for a moment and took advantage of the time when the original owner was immersed in cultivation to move her to the ruined temple where Su Shi was studying. As for the heavy downpour that night and the collapse of the roof, it was all his doing. Vertex. Chapter 2395. He knew that this carp spirit was devoted to cultivation and good, so she wouldn't sit by and do nothing. Sure enough, he was very satisfied with what happened next. Military Star Lord and the 9 brilliant star officials participated in the various obstructions that followed. Poor host. She thought it was fate, but she didn't expect that someone had planned it. Later, Pei Jiaran came to beg her because she had a dream. It was Su Shi's father, military star official, who asked her to beg the host. He said that only the host could save him. In fact, military star official saw how stubborn his son was and decided to help him. He didn't want to make things difficult for the two children. Moreover, he believed that the host was sent by 9 brilliant star official to sabotage the plan. There was nothing wrong with her wasting her energy to save Su Shi. After she saved Su Shi, military star official was furious. If Su Shi died then, he and his daughter wouldn't be able to be together. So he sent the Black Bear Spirit Ban Tai to block the path and kill the original owner. He should have been a carp with a boundless future, a carp that could leap over the dragon gate and become an immortal. Just like that, he was schemed against by 2 star lords and lost his life. Later, Su Shi and Pei Jiaran returned to the heavenly realm and found out what happened to the host. Military star official and 9 brilliant star officials' answer was, because the Black Bear Spirit lost the fruit of wisdom and missed the opportunity to be enlightened. In the end, she was killed by the Black Bear Spirit. That's just karma. Su Shi and Pei Jiaran thought it made sense, so they didn't pursue the matter. They didn't take revenge on the Black Bear Spirit either. They could kill that kind of spirit with a flick of their fingers. If word got out, they would be laughed at for being stingy. Now that they were the children of Star Official and Star Official, they didn't care about the life of a mere carp spirit. Especially the decades in the mortal realm, which was just a small part of their memories, they didn't care. "Dear host, are you okay?" Knowing that Tangua had finished reading all the memories, some of the systems that knew her would ask her about the situation in a low voice. "I'm okay. Once again, I experienced what it means to be an ant. This is an ant that can be played in the palm of someone's hand." Tangua just sighed. The original owner didn't know that her tragedy was deliberately arranged by others. In the end, the 9 luminary star officials said that it was karma that determined the reason for his death. In terms of karma, shouldn't it be him who moved her into the ruined temple? What karma? Wasn't it only retribution that was called karma? Those who didn't receive retribution were called scourges, and no one would come to collect them for 1,000 years. The reason was that the 9 brilliant star official and the military star lord were at odds with each other and prevented their children from falling in love. Speaking of which, the ones who deserved the most retribution were themselves. Unfortunately, they were celestial lords and celestial officials, immortals who controlled the constellations. They were powerful, had lofty statuses, background, status, and protection. Even if the original owner knew that she had been tricked, she could only admit defeat. In the end, even if she didn't do anything, Sushi would still be fine. Besides, even if he died, he wouldn't really die. Therefore, this spiritual monster who had never seen a human's heart was really pitiful. After being begged a little, she softened her heart and agreed. If she was too pure and had no one to protect her, she wouldn't have a good ending. This is a world where strength is the truth. I like it. Peak. Chapter 2396. The system hesitated for a moment before replying, "To be honest, I like it too." It had not seen its host beat someone up for a long time and he wanted to see it. "Host, your strength is still very weak. What kind of medicine do you need for cultivation?" "I will get it for you." Not long after consuming the fruit of wisdom, Sushi became an elementary scholar. The next year was the triennial provincial examination. Sushi ate the fruit of wisdom and studied hard for more than a year. Naturally, he was full of confidence. Not only did he pass, but he also became a top scorer. A top scorer was the first in the provincial examination. Today, he was already known as a high scholar. Even so, Squire Su did not bring him down the mountain to live. He prepared to let him rest for a year before continuing to participate in the provincial examination. Squire Su believed that Sushi was able to become an elementary scholar and a high scholar because he lived in the temple. Thus, he did not allow him to leave the mountain. Because the temple had Tangua, this carp, who accompanied him to study every day, Sushi did not want to leave the mountain to live. At this time, Sushi was really the one who wanted to become an elementary scholar and come back to marry her. As mentioned before, when Sushi became an elementary scholar, Squire Su had slowly moved his family to the capital. Now, it should be about time for him to move his headquarters over. Counting the days, after Sushi's rest this time, he would come back to the mountain and bid farewell to Tangua. Counting the days, Tangua was a little happy. After Sushi left, she would be able to cultivate properly and no one would disturb her. Since this was a world where strength was important, she must make herself stronger first. When the sun was about to set, Sushi came back. Every 10 days, he would be invited down the mountain to reunite with his family. He would have half a day to stroll around the city. Now that he was a high scholar, Squire Su allowed him to go down the mountain once every 7 days to give him more time to rest. Actually, he also wanted the people in town to see that his Su family had another high scholar. Back then, he was a top scorer. When Sushi stepped into the dilapidated temple, Tangua felt it. Following the sound of footsteps, she knew that Sushi was walking towards her water tank. He came and sat on the stool. His hands were on the edge of the water tank, and his handsome face revealed a somewhat silly smile. Even though he was now a high scholar, he still did not behave like a scholar. Tangwa guessed that it was because Military Star's genes were so strong that he couldn't change his rough nature. I bought you something to eat. It's all kinds of pastries from Furong shop. They're your favorite. I also bought a few new dresses and hairpins for you. They were all bought according to your preferences. As Sushi spoke, he touched Tangwa's head with his hand. Tangwa, come out and try it on. Is it suitable? If you don't like it, I'll go down the mountain and buy it for you in 2 days. Listening to Sushi's words, Tangwa understood that he should really be going to the capital. With a thought, she jumped out of the water tank and saw a golden red fish drawing a beautiful arc in the air. Before it landed, it turned into a beauty in red. Seeing her like this, Sushi hurriedly presented the things he bought to her as if he was presenting a treasure. Take a look. Do you like it? I like it. Peek. Chapter 2397. Tangwa copied the original owner's appearance and smiled as she replied. She even ate a piece of cake. It's delicious. Then eat more. Tell me if you need anything else. In 2 days, I'll go down the mountain again and buy everything for you. Tangwa pretended to look at him suspiciously. Young Master Su, I'm going to the capital to participate in this year's examination. If I pass, it will be the court examination. The emperor will personally invigilate it. If I become the top scorer, I'll definitely come back to marry you. Sushi said this very fervently. His heart was boiling with passion. Tangwa's gaze softened and her smile widened. She suddenly asked, if you don't become the top scorer, you won't come back to marry me? No, whether I become the top scorer or not, I'll still marry Guo. System, very good, you've fallen into the trap. Tangwa's lips curled as she said seriously to Sushi, young Master Su has studied hard for many years. This time, you'll definitely become the top scorer. After speaking, she observed Sushi's expression. As expected, he seemed to have heaved a sigh of relief. His eyes drooped slightly. Although Sushi liked her at this time, he wouldn't be completely selfless. He probably wanted to get a blessing from her by telling her this. However, the original owner was a little silly and would use her magic power to make the blessing 100% come true. She was different. She would just say a few more words. Saying a few words of praise was nothing. With Sushi's strength after eating the fruit of wisdom, it would be easy for him to become the top scorer. With Guo's words, I'll definitely work hard to become the top scorer and come back to marry you. A book suddenly appeared in Tangwa's hand. Sushi knew her ability and wasn't surprised. He only heard Tangwa say, I've read many stories before. Before the examination, those scholars would tell the girl they liked that they would come back to marry her if they became the top scorer. However, after those scholars became the emperor's son-in-law, the prime minister, or the imperial tutor's son-in-law. Young Master Su, you're not like those in the stories, are you? Sushi laughed heartily as he opened the book in Tangwa's hand and skimmed through it. This is just a story in the book, written by someone for fun. Don't worry, I'm different from them. Yes, young Master Su is naturally different from others. Tangwa smiled and said, I believe that you will be the top scholar and come back to marry me. If you don't come back and marry me, you won't last long even if you marry another woman. Even if it's for a long time, you'll still suffer. Tangwa ate the pastries, looking very serious. Young Master Su, I'll wait for your return. Sushi didn't care about what Tangwa had just said. He thought that she cared too much about him, which was why she had said those words that sounded like an oath. Moreover, he really thought that way at this moment, which was why he said those words without any psychological burden at all. However, what Tangwa thought was, as her character, saying those words, even if she added some magic power, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it, right? Although curses weren't what a red koi fish like her was good at, and she couldn't compare to a black koi fish whose curses could come true with just a casual sentence, it was still the same. Whether it was useful or not, she had to say it first. In the end, Tangwa didn't ask for anything. After Sushi stayed in the temple for 5 days, Squire Su sent someone to pick him up. Before he left, he was still a little reluctant to part. He stayed by the water vat and said that he would definitely come back to marry her. In the end, after Tangwa said, "Young master, have a safe journey, you will definitely be the top scorer," he left in satisfaction. The Peak. Chapter 2398. As soon as he stepped out of the temple, Tangwa directly turned 2 laps in the water. He finally left. "I have to take advantage of this time to cultivate. After all, the people I will face in the future are not simple people. I can't be careless. Tongzi, take out the spiritual medicine for me." As for Su Shi, he followed Squire Su to the capital. Sure enough, his journey was smooth. He knew that Tangwa's words were likely to come true, so he asked for a few auspicious words. As for being the top scorer in the exam, he was still very confident. As long as there were no other accidents, or if the emperor naturally disliked him, he felt that there would be no problem. But with Tangwa's blessings, he would feel more at ease. However, without Tangwa's blessings, he was not as lucky as he was in the original plot. He was assigned to a particularly bad place. This place was smelly all day, and it was also the place to go to the toilet. Fortunately, he persevered in the end. When he came out, he was about to collapse. As soon as he came out, Squire Su asked people to support him. Even if he confidently said that there was no problem, the Su family was still worried. When he fainted, the Su family's several younger sisters who were less than 10 years old looked at him with worried faces. Sushi also didn't have the energy to explain. These days, he was really too difficult. Fortunately, he was usually active and had learned a few moves from others before. Usually, when he was a little tired from studying in the mountain temple, he would go to the courtyard to exercise. His body was not bad. Even if he was a little embarrassed this time, he basically recovered after 2 days of rest. Unlike the other candidates, because they always stayed in the house to study, their bodies were a little weak. This time, even if he was lucky and was not as embarrassed as Su Shi, he still fell sick for 2 days. Ever since Su Shi came out of the examination room in a sorry state and fainted as soon as he came out, Squire Su's family didn't have much hope for the result. When they heard that his exam location was in that place, everyone's face was very ugly. Therefore, when the results were released, Squire Su only sent Su Shi's servant to see it. He didn't bring the whole family with him. If Su Shi's name wasn't on the list and people asked about it, wouldn't it be a joke? These days, Su Shi also didn't leave the house. Squire Su thought that he was in a bad mood, so he couldn't blame him. This time, the Su family was unlucky to be assigned to such a place. "If you don't make it on the list, I won't blame you. You can take the exam next time. With my son's ability, you will definitely be able to pass the high school next time." Squire Su comforted him. He believed in his son's ability and said these words with full confidence. "Previously, when we came to the capital, you were locked in the courtyard reading. Now, take advantage of this time to go out and play and make more friends." Father heard that in the capital, there are not only big and small poetry gatherings, tea parties, and flower appreciation gatherings every month. You should like it. Squire Sue was afraid that Sushi would be in a bad mood and stay in the room all day, boring himself to death. Sushi raised his head and saw Squire Sue's affectionate and worried expression. He smiled and said, "Father, don't worry. Isn't little Six waiting for the results to be released? It's not too late to wait for the results. If I pass, I still have to prepare for the court examination. At this time, where will I have time to go to poetry gatherings and make friends?" Peak. Chapter 2399. Seeing that he was full of confidence, Squire Sue could only give up. In his heart, he prayed that his son's name would be on the list. No matter what rank it would be good as long as he passed. Even if he was only a scholar, he wouldn't let down the expectations of his ancestors. Thinking of this, Squire Sue looked forward to it. Sushi had always been full of confidence and believed that he would pass. Sure enough, it didn't take long for his errand boy Su Xiaoyo's voice to reach him from outside the door. He repeated the same few words, "Master, Master, he got it, young Master got it. Master, young Master passed, he passed. Our young Master passed, he passed high school." At that time, Squire Sue was still talking to Madame Sue. He told her to instruct the kitchen to nourish Sushi well. Regardless of whether he passed or not, it couldn't be blamed on Sushi this time. With his son's momentum over the years, even if he didn't pass this time, he would definitely pass next time. Madame Sue nodded repeatedly. Although there was a bit of disappointment between her eyebrows, she was more serious. The Sue family had produced scholars, but later on, they didn't have a single county scholar. Now that they came to the Sue family, they only had Sushi, the only son, who didn't look like a scholar. She had never thought that her family's master would suddenly decide to send Sushi to that dilapidated temple on the mountain. Although she was distressed, she knew that this was the Sue family's rule. She hoped that Sushi would be able to work hard and pass the county scholar exam. Unexpectedly, not only did Sushi pass the county scholar exam, but he also passed the provincial scholar exam the next year. He was always first place, which really gave her a big surprise. This journey had been too smooth, causing Madame Sue's heart to be in a mess. She always thought that it was all a dream. This time, Sushi had some problems during the exam. After staying in that kind of place for a few days, he was completely exhausted. She wasn't very sad, only a bit disappointed. The unrealistic stone in her heart fell down. She was about to order the cook to make something delicious for Sushi to recuperate and wait for the next exam. Unexpectedly, Su Xiaoyo's voice, he passed, young master passed, suddenly rang out, causing her to be surprised and happy. The couple hurriedly chased after them. Squire Su didn't forget to ask the housekeeper to get the money bag. Su Xiaolu, who had come in to report the good news, rushed over and shouted excitedly. After Squire Su asked clearly, he directly gave him a gold ingot. Su Xiaolu was so happy that he didn't know what to say. On this day, other than Su Shi, who was relatively calm, the entire Su family was jubilant. Su Shi had become a grand scholar. Now, his status and prestige in the Su family had even surpassed that of Squire Su. Squire Su didn't care about this. Now that his son was a jincher, he had fulfilled his ancestors' wishes. Even if he had to reduce his lifespan by 10 years, he felt that it would be worth it. After the court examination, his son would become a high-ranking official. At that time, he would naturally be much more powerful than his father. It would be a good thing for the whole family to respect him. If his son accidentally caught the eye of the emperor and was selected as the top scholar, then Minister Su didn't dare to think about it anymore. Soon, it was time for the court examination. Squire Su and his family were all waiting outside. He didn't know how long he had waited, but it seemed like several months. In the end, Sushi came out with a smile and told him that he had been chosen as the top scholar by the emperor. He was so happy that he fainted. Vertex. Chapter 2400. The whole family was happy and worried as they carried Squire Sue back. Madame Sue couldn't even walk steadily. She had to be supported by her maidservant to prevent her from falling. Sushi looked calm on the surface, but in fact, he felt like he was floating. Even though he had expected this, he was still very nervous when the emperor personally named him as the top scholar. He rode on his horse and looked up at the blue sky. He felt that today was a good day. He looked around and saw that the people around him had come to watch him. Although the people with the surname Bai in the capital had seen the top scholar before, there was only one top scholar in each court examination. This person was chosen by the emperor personally, so he was not an ordinary person. With just one look, they would remember his appearance. In the future, they would be able to boast to their children and grandchildren for the rest of their lives. They would say that they had seen the top scholar riding a horse pass by them when they were young. Sushi felt that he was different. Of course, at this time, he especially wanted to tell Tanghua, who was still cultivating in the temple, that he had become the top scholar. He also wanted to tell her that he would go back and marry her. At this time, Tanghua was still in the water tank. Only a few fish heads were above the water surface. From time to time, some bubbles would appear in the water. Perhaps Sushi had been gone for too long and forgot to ask someone to watch over her and change the water for her. Or perhaps, he knew her ability and thought that even if he didn't ask someone to do it, she wouldn't do anything because he didn't change the water. Even if this was the truth, it was still a different matter whether he did it or not. Great speed, your cultivation speed is too fast. I'm envious. The system was a little jealous. It leveled up very slowly. How could it be like Tanghua, who could improve by leaps and bounds just by eating elixirs? My cultivation level is still there, and it has been improving all these years. Naturally, my cultivation speed is fast. I have been to so many worlds and created many cultivation methods. These cultivation methods were all perfected according to myself. Of course, it's fast and steady. You can ask any cultivator. If their cultivation level is high, it's easy to improve their strength. Cultivators are most afraid of not being able to keep up with their cultivation level. If their cultivation level keeps up, everything will be easy. The system was actually a little strange. It knew that this world used spiritual energy to cultivate, but when its host cultivated, he didn't seem to absorb the surrounding spiritual energy. Yes, I'm not cultivating a cultivation technique that absorbs spiritual energy. Tanghua explained for the system, this world has the Celestial Emperor, the Heavenly Realm, and the Celestial Lord who is in charge of the constellations. There should be other celestial beings too. If the mortal realm has spiritual chi, then the immortal realm should have immortal chi. If I cultivate spiritual chi now, then I will have to absorb immortal chi in the future. The reason why the Celestial Emperor is able to control so many immortals and they have no choice but to obey the rules, there must be something that can restrict them. No matter how powerful an immortal is, if he is under the control of the Celestial Emperor, if the Celestial Emperor wants him to descend to the mortal world to undergo the tribulation, he will have to descend to the mortal world to undergo the tribulation. Do you think that if I cultivate with spiritual energy and cultivate with immortal energy in the future, I will be restricted by him? The system was speechless in its heart. Was the host already considering the possibility of falling out with the Celestial the Arch in the future? Have you heard of the investiture of the gods? This is the thing that limits immortals. The system hurriedly said, I've heard of it. How could I not have heard of the story of Jiang Ziya's ascension? Then you should have heard of the Earth immortals who are not on the investiture of the gods list, right? Peak. Chapter 2401. They're not so restricted, and every year, the Celestial Emperor and Empress befriends them. No matter what, they'll be given some face. However, they've been around for a long time. It was their own luck that they didn't enter the investiture of the gods. I'm guessing that the celestial realm has been perfected. Newly ascended immortals will definitely enter the investiture of the gods. Someone like the Celestial Emperor won't let those unrestricted people appear. If the Celestial Emperor also has this thing, I don't know what will happen if I don't enter the investiture of the gods. That's why it's best for me to cultivate the power of the stars. The power of the stars is the power of the stars, moon, and sun. As long as the heavens and earth exist, no one can restrict me. If the Celestial Emperor is unreasonable and only helps the 9 brilliant star official and the military star lord, then I'm sorry, I won't do it. The system looked at Tangua, who looked like she wanted to fight and silently mourned for the Celestial Emperor. It seemed that Sadadu really hadn't fought for a long time and was itching for a fight. However, he supported it. I used to be a small ant. If I was schemed against, then I'll take it that I'm useless. Since the fist has the final say, then when my fist is big, I'll beat them up, scheme against them and steal their things. Just don't cry. What an unreasonable woman. Why hasn't that guy appeared yet? Come and take a look at this unreasonable woman. The system suddenly thought of a possibility. If that guy appeared, it wouldn't be able to control her and would only be reduced to handing her a knife. Tangua was still focused on cultivating. She didn't plan to move. She was still waiting for Sushi to send someone back to inform her that he was killed by bandits. If she didn't continue acting, how could she grab hold of the 2 old things' weak points? Bullying people required a righteous reason. Otherwise, the Celestial Emperor would give her a reputation of causing chaos in the 3 realms and attract a group of hot-blooded people to kill demons. At this time, Sushi was invited to various poetry and tea parties in the capital. Naturally, he met Princess Pei Jiaoran, who came out of the palace to see the new scholar. Pei Jiaoran had also heard from the people in the palace that the new top scholar was not only talented, but also young and handsome. Later on, she found out from her imperial father that her imperial father wanted to give the new top scorer to her as her imperial son-in-law. She didn't believe that this person was as good as her father said, so she decided to see for herself. Who would have thought that the 2 of them would hit it off so well that they would call each other brothers after just one day? Faced with such a talented and handsome Sushi, Pei Jiaoran was unsurprisingly tempted. She had been pampered since she was a child, so she had always been bold. Since she had taken a fancy to him, she planned to interact with him more to see if Sushi was pretending or if he was really that good. After meeting up with Sushi several times, Pei Jiaoran gave her heart to Sushi. When Sushi saw Pei Jiaoran for the first time, he felt that they had met somewhere before. Later on, of course, he wouldn't reject Pei Jiaoran's invitation. The 2 of them got closer and closer, and Sushi felt that his feelings towards Pei Jiaoran were a little strange. In the end, he even wanted to get close to her. At this time, Pei Jiaoran was still dressed in men's clothing. He couldn't tell that she was a woman, so he thought that he was sick. When this thought came to his mind, he was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. It wasn't easy for him to become the new top scholar. If it was exposed that he was actually a short-sleeved man, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Peak. Chapter 2402. One day, when Pei Jiaoran went to invite Sushi again, he did not appear as usual. The person who came was Su Xiaolu. Pei Jiaoran was surprised to see Su Xiaolu. Xiaolu, where is Brother Su? Why didn't he come? Young Master Jiao, my young master is sick. Su Xiaolu did not understand why Sushi would pretend to be sick and not see Pei Jiaoran. However, this was his young master's order, so he could only follow. Pei Jiaran grew up in the palace. Even though she had always been pampered, she was still somewhat scheming. She recalled Su Shi's recent situation. This Su Shi was tall and sturdy, completely different from the usual weak scholar. His skin was not sickly white, but rather a very healthy wheat color. It was only yesterday that they had met. The two of them returned in the evening. At that time, Su Shi's mental state was good. She vaguely thought that Su Shi was not sick. However, she was afraid that if she asked directly, it would ruin his good impression. Therefore, she only regretfully told Su Xiaolu that she would come another day to invite Su Shi to play. On the second day, she came again, but Su Shi still said that he was sick. Pei Jiaran left. On the third day, Pei Jiaran came again, but Su Shi still said that he was sick. Pei Jiaran left again. On the 10th day, Pei Jiaran did not come again. She only sent her attendant. Su Xiaolu came again. Seeing that Pei Jiaran did not come, he hurriedly asked about her whereabouts. Pei Jiaran's attendant said, "My young master came to see young master Su for 10 days in a row, but young master Su did not come back. Yesterday, young master went back and caught a cold. Today, he is so sick that he can't get out of bed." After saying that, Pei Jiaran's attendant left. After Su Xiaolu reported this matter to Su Shi, Su Shi was filled with regret. He hurriedly left the residence to visit Pei Jiaran. Pei Jiaran had a residence in the city that was bestowed to her by the emperor. This was the address she gave Su Shi before. This time, she was only pretending to be sick in order to attract Su Shi to visit her. At the same time, she already understood why Su Shi did not want to see her. At this time, she also planned to inadvertently reveal that she was a woman to reassure Su Shi. After the two of them had a heart-to-heart talk, she could ask her imperial father to grant the marriage. Although she could ask her imperial father to grant the marriage now, she hoped that Su Shi would be willing. She wanted to be a loving couple with someone like Su Shi, not a princess and a prince consort. Su Shi hurriedly rushed to the residence. Just as Pei Jiaran had planned, he accidentally discovered that Pei Jiaran was a girl and was overjoyed. Pei Jiaran had been pretending to be sick all this while. She even took a cold shower last night in order to make herself look more real. She was afraid that Su Shi would think that she was scheming if he found out that she was pretending to be sick. This would cause a rift between them. Actually, her real situation wasn't that bad. But Su Shi was very worried and came to see her every day. He looked at Pei Jiaran with more and more admiration. When Pei Jiaran saw that the situation was almost over, she came up with another plan. She made her personal palace maid rush out of the palace to look for her and accidentally call her princess. Su Shi was indeed very surprised at that time. Later on, Pei Jiaran explained that as a woman, if she did not disguise herself as a man, it would inevitably be somewhat inconvenient. At this time, she mustered up her courage and confessed her feelings. When Su Shi was happy, he also hurriedly expressed his feelings. With this, Pei Jiaran's goal was achieved. She even asked Su Shi if he was willing to be her prince consort. At that time, Su Shi did not think too much and blurted out, "It is Su Shi's blessing to be able to receive the princess's love." The Peak. Chapter 2403. At this moment, he was completely immersed in Pei Jiaran's love for him and his admiration for Pei Jiaran. His mind was filled with the image of him and Pei Jiaran envying only a couple in the future. He had completely forgotten that he had once told a carp spirit that he would marry her when he became the top scholar. Su Shi held Pei Jiaran's handkerchief and reluctantly watched her return to the palace. The next day, the emperor granted the marriage. When they received the imperial edict and the whole family was wild with joy, Su Shi suddenly remembered something. He had told Tang Guo that he would marry her when he became the top scholar. Tang Guo was a carp spirit. Although he hadn't seen her really fight, when the beams suddenly collapsed, he didn't even have time to react. Tang Guo was able to jump out of the water tank in an instant and easily move him to another position. It was obvious that this carp's spirit was very powerful. Now that she had cultivated for a few years, she must have improved a lot. In these few years, he had been studying, and she had been concentrating on cultivating. She had always taken his words seriously. Now that he and the current princess were in love with each other, he even faintly regretted having a good impression of Tang Guo. Now he understood that the previous good impression was only because she was the only one who accompanied him in the mountain temple, which gave him the illusion that he wanted to grow old with her. He felt like an old friend at first sight and fell in love with Pei Jiaoren. Even if Pei Jiaoren was disguised as a man at that time, he was still tempted. Therefore, he knew very well that he truly loved Pei Jiaoren. She was more grateful to Tang Guo and wanted to accompany her, but he misunderstood her intentions and made a promise to her. He also heard that if humans did not fulfill their promise to the spirits would definitely not let them go. He could not tell Pei Jiaoren about this, let alone tell his family. If his parents knew, they would be very worried about him. If Pei Jiaoren knew, she would definitely distance herself from him. He did not know why, but he could not bear for Pei Jiaoren to be wronged at all, and he did not want to be misunderstood by her. As for killing Tang Guo, it had never crossed his mind. Putting aside whether or not he could succeed, they had accompanied each other for so many years. He just couldn't bring himself to do it. When Su Shi received the imperial edict that day, he was wild with joy. Why did he seem so depressed these days? Not only did he not attend the poetry recital, he even looked a little worried. Both Squire Su and Madame Su were very worried and asked him what had happened. Su Shi naturally didn't dare to tell the truth, so he just casually found a reason to dodge it. Seeing that the day of his wedding with the princess was getting closer and closer, he had to come up with a foolproof plan. Not only could he keep Tang Guo away from trouble and cultivate to become an immortal in peace, but he could also be in love with the princess for the rest of his life. After being in seclusion for several days, Su Shi flipped through many stories of demons and monsters and finally came up with a solution. He had once heard from Tang Guo that she had fallen for him and could no longer concentrate on her cultivation. The only solution was to be together with him and end their mortal fate. Only when his mortal life was over would their fate be severed. At that time, she would have nothing to worry about and could start cultivating again. During these days in the capital, Su Shi had also raised some confidence. He sent a few people to pass by a certain temple and told them that when he entered the capital, he was robbed and killed by bandits. Chapter 2404. After giving all these instructions, Su Shi got married to Pei Jiaoren with an uneasy heart. During this period of time, he had been on tenterhooks, afraid that his plan would not work. At the same time, he was also thinking about what would happen if his plan was exposed. He had already thought of a plan. Of course, he hoped that his previous plan would work and he would be able to fool Tang Guo. As long as Tang Guo believed that he was dead, she would not be reluctant to leave the mortal world and focus on her cultivation. It was said that there was no time in the mountains. In the blink of an eye, decades would pass. By the time she succeeded in her cultivation, a few hundred years would have passed. By then, he would have turned into dust and the matter would have been resolved. Su Shi did not know that Tang Guo was no longer the Tang Guo he knew. Even the old Tang Guo did not choose to cultivate immediately after knowing that he was dead. Instead, she focused on her cultivation and helped him take revenge. About 2 months later, Tang Guo was cultivating in the water tank when she heard footsteps outside the temple. Tang Guo did not move and the system knew that she did not care about Su Shi. His host not only wanted to mess with Su Shi, she also wanted to mess with the 2 celestial officials behind Su Shi and Pei Jiaoren. As the footsteps entered, Tang Guo could feel that there were 7 or 8 people even though she was cultivating. Not long after, she could smell the aroma of barbecued meat. Is this the temple where the Sioux family's high scholar lived? There are some ink stains here. This should be the place where high scholar Sioux studied. That should be it. Look, there is a door over there. It is still locked. From the looks of it, it has been repaired. It is said that high scholar Sioux was once judged by everyone to be unfit for the scholarly field. After moving to the temple, he became a high scholar and then a high scholar. What a pity. If high scholar Sioux did not meet those terrifying bandits on his way to the capital, he would have been selected as a high scholar by the emperor. Isn't that so? The Sioux family wanted to produce another high scholar. They thought that they would succeed this time. Poor Sioux family, they lost their only son. Tangua could not help but laugh when she heard these people talking nonsense. This scholar's mouth was really good at deceiving fish. It was no wonder that demons hated humans since ancient times. It was because they were too good at making up stories. If you don't dare to admit that you've done something bad, you have to find a few excuses to cover it up. These people talked a lot in the temple. They talked about everything except Sushi's death. She thought that this was Sushi's order. This guy had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. He really had the makings of an official. He was full of evil tricks. If he only talked about his death, it would definitely make people wonder if it was deliberately done by someone. If he told them everything, his story would only be a small part of the story, and it would be more convincing if someone casually mentioned it. Actually, he was really too careful. With the original owner's naivety and purity, she was a spirit who only cared about cultivation. She really couldn't think of anything. It was really too easy to fool her. Even if Sushi really came back to admit his mistake, with the original owner's pure and kind temperament, at most she would give him 2 slaps and leave in anger. She wouldn't do anything to him. Spiritual monsters, like humans, were also divided into good and evil. Chapter 2405. The original owner was obviously a kind person. If Sushi had really encountered an evil spirit, he would have been killed in the temple long ago. How would he have had this series of fortuitous encounters? Not long after, Tangua smelled a strange smell. In short, it made her feel a little nauseous. What are they doing? It smells really bad. The system said weakly. But speaking of which, his great host had never eaten fish. Although she didn't stop others from eating it, she didn't seem to like fish. After transmigrating into the mermaid, she didn't touch fish even more. Now that she was a carp, the smell of grilled fish would make her feel even more uncomfortable. Actually, fish were supposed to eat fish, but the great host was a human soul after all. Perhaps she couldn't accept this. Tangua sank her whole body into the water. These people were really despicable. They were actually grilling fish in front of her. System, there's no other way. I can't jump out and say that you're not allowed to eat fish. Even if it's fish, you still eat fish. At this moment, Tangua suddenly heard something bumping into the water tank. There were still people there. She couldn't just jump out to see what was going on. She could only use her divine sense to scan the outside. Then, he saw a big black fish, swaying its body in the side of the big tank. It seemed that because it was a little dehydrated, this black fish might be a little uncomfortable. She glanced at the silly fish and thought, although this guy looks silly, there is no lake around it. Most likely, it escaped from the hands of those who were roasting the fish. Speaking of which, it wasn't that silly. After all, a silly fish couldn't escape at all. It must have become food in those people's stomachs. Just as she was about to use her consciousness to pull the fish up, it jumped with force and fell directly into her large tank. With a thump, the fish was next to her. He must have returned to the water and swam happily for a while. It could also be that he was happy because he had managed to escape with his life. Tangua moved a little further away. Seeing that the water in the large tank had been stirred up by this guy, she really wanted to throw it out. At this moment, the other party seemed to have noticed her. Suddenly, a very strange scene appeared in the large tank. A golden red fish and a black fish were staring at each other. The system, Tangua looked at the big fish head in front of her. After a while, she spat out 2 bubbles and said, "You're so dirty. You're muddying my water. Your whole body is black. Where did you come from? You are the ugliest fish I have ever seen." System, this. Great host, even if I accidentally muddy your water, there's no need to attack my body, right? It wasn't easy for him to escape with his life, and he was just happy for a while. We're all the same, and it's quite boring for you to cultivate alone. Let's keep each other company. The system felt a little helpless. Fortunately, this was just an ordinary fish. If it had become a spirit and heard the host say that it was the ugliest fish, it would probably cry to death. I'll return you a lake of clean water in the future. The system was shocked. It couldn't be, right? This fish had also become a spirit. They caught me while I was sleeping. Also, we're just different colors. I'm not ugly. I'm the most beautiful fish in our lake. Chapter 2406. When Tangua heard the phrase, "I am the most handsome fish in our lake," she almost jumped up and gave him a fishtail swing. The system was also stunned. Were all fish nowadays so narcissistic? Then what kind of fish are you? Tangua asked curiously. Your whole body is black, there is no color at all. You don't look very handsome. Don't you think that every scale on my body is very beautiful and shiny? Even on the scales, there are almost no flaws. Every one of them is so perfect, they all look neat and tidy. Not a single one of them has grown out of place. Also, look at the lines of my body. Fishtail, fish head, and dorsal fin. Don't they look the best as a whole? Also, when I have time, I can transform into a human form for you to see. Even in the eyes of humans, I am very good-looking. Tangua blinked. She really could not help but jump up and give him a fishtail swing. The other party did not have any intention of retaliating. Instead, he allowed her to splash water on his fish head. When they leave, I will bring you to our lake to play. Are you going to cultivate here? This small water tank is not suitable for you. It is too small. When he said this, he was still a little arrogant. Our lake is under my control. They dare not provoke me. When the time comes, you can cultivate wherever you want to. Where is your lake? It is not far from the foot of the mountain. When they leave, I will bring you there. There is abundant spiritual energy there. It is very suitable for you to cultivate. All right, you have muddied my water. It is only right for you to find me a new place to cultivate. The system was silent at the side. It really did not expect that one day, it would be able to watch 2 fish talk in a water tank. This was really too unbelievable. The host was talking so much to a wild fish and didn't even consider going to his house. There must be something wrong with this black fish. If it was not that shameless person, he would not believe it. In his heart, the system was complaining about shamelessness. However, it still had to give face to the host. It could not complain in public. Tangua spat out 2 bubbles and swung her fishtail at the big black fish opposite her. The other party did not resist at all, nor was he angry. He let her tease him and even seemed to be happy. It's him. He said that there is a lake in his house, so I don't want to cultivate in the water tank anymore. Tangua said directly, if the lake is bigger, it will be more comfortable to swim in, don't you think so? It was so troublesome to change the water in the water tank. There's no need to stay in this rundown temple any longer. System, where's your integrity? Yes, yes, yes. His house was big, and his house was a lake. Therefore, Great Host didn't mind that this fellow was dirty and dirted the water tank. Are you trying to trick a puppy? The people who stayed in the temple stayed for 2 hours, leaving behind an extinguished fire and a pile of fish bones. Then, they left. When they were far away, Tangguo jumped out of the water tank and landed on the ground. She was dressed in red again, and her long hair was almost touching the ground. Chapter 2407. She turned around and glanced at the big black fish in the bathtub. They've all left. Hurry up and come out too. Let me see how handsome you are. The big black fish looked up at her, then leaped out. When he landed in front of her, he transformed into a young man in black. Tangguo took a closer look, and sure enough, he was extremely handsome. How is it? He walked in front of Tangguo, stared at her and asked, with my appearance, am I very good-looking among humans? Tangguo also put her face in front of him, blinked, and asked, is he as good-looking as me? Tell me, am I good-looking or are you good-looking? System, pfft. We're a family. Let's not compare. The big black fish carefully sized up Tangguo, then said, you win. Although I think I'm very handsome, the big black fish paused, then said in a conflicted tone, but when I see you, you're indeed better. In front of the truth, I can't lie to myself. Tangguo pursed her lips and smiled. This fish was quite talkative. Let's go. You said before that you would compensate me with a lake for messing up my water. Now, take me to your house to cultivate. Tangguo rolled up her sleeves and saw that there was a stain on it. She handed it over to him and said, look, you just rolled on the ground for who knows how many times. You dirted my clothes. When we get back, I'll compensate you. Okay, okay. Seeing that you're so sincere, I won't argue about this. Big black fish, quickly take me to your house. Tangguo walked out of the temple first. The big black fish quickly chased after her and shouted, I'm not called Big Black Fish. I'm called Qingheng. What's your name? Tangguo. Then I'll call you Guoguo from now on. Then I'll call you Big Black Fish. Qingheng stopped Tangguo. It's better to call you Qingheng. I'm Qingheng. I've already called you Guoguo. If you don't like Qingheng, you can call me Brother Heng. Tangguo turned around and looked at him strangely. So you want to be my brother? Judging from my previous size, I should be many times older than you. You can even call me Grandpa. Qingheng refused to be called a big black fish. He was so handsome that the name Big Black Fish sounded very ugly. Call him Grandpa. Dream on. System, what a joke. You want to be the host's grandfather? You must be tired of living. But I'm used to it. Big Black Fish, I'll call you Big Black Fish. The name Big Black Fish is a little ugly. It's not like you're called ugly by others. You're born handsome. Everyone who sees you knows that you're handsome. How can a mere name make you ugly? Brother Heng, it sounds awkward. I don't want to learn from the humans and call you brother. I prefer to call you Big Black Fish. It sounds close. Is that so? Qingheng was a little conflicted. He really didn't want to be called Big Black Fish, but this red carp was the first friend who dared to be so close to him and even wanted to stay at his house. If he rejected the name, he wondered if she would get angry and not follow him back. Big Black Fish, is that lake yours? While Qin Heng was still conflicted, the two of them had unknowingly left the mountain. Tanggua saw a lake. It was indeed very big. Qin Heng's attention was diverted. When he heard Tanggua's words, he quickly nodded. Yes, that's my house. Then let's go down. Big black fish, I'll be cultivating at your house in the future. Qin Heng forgot about being called Big Black Fish. He quickly brought Tanggua down to visit his house. But when the two of them turned into fish and jumped into the lake, Tanggua suddenly heard all sorts of panicked voices. The big demonic fish is back. Oh no, the big demonic fish is back. He wasn't eaten by humans. Run quickly. If the big demonic fish sees us, we'll be in trouble. Tanggua, Qin Heng, system, why do they call you big demonic fish? And they say that I'll be in trouble if I see you. Qin Heng was a little apprehensive. Why don't you stay away from me? If you get too close to me, you'll really be in trouble. Chapter 2408. After Qin Heng told Tanggua to stay away from him, he subconsciously swam further away. After all, if she got too close to him, she might really be unlucky. Tanggua wasn't afraid at all. She swam towards his position. As soon as she went over, Qin Heng swam away again and said, "If you get too close to me, you will really be unlucky." Qin Heng said nervously. It was not easy to find a fish that could talk to him. It was not as afraid of him as the other fish in the lake. When it saw him, it called him the big magic fish. Tanggua looked at the big black fish in the distance and laughed. Okay, then I won't come close to you. Arrange a place for me to cultivate. Seeing that Tanggua really did not approach him, Qin Heng breathed a sigh of relief. He said, "Come with me," and quickly swam to the depths of the lake. After a while, Tanggua was taken through a layer of wizardry barrier. The scene in front of her was very different. It was very beautiful here. Even if the lake water above was released, there was no way to reach here without passing through this layer of wizardry barrier. If the monsters lived directly at the bottom of the lake and human beings drained the lake water, the monsters would be exposed to human beings. You can cultivate wherever you like. Qin Heng pointed around. No other fish will come here. You can find a place. I won't disturb you. After that, he looked at Tanggua eagerly. However, if you are free, I can talk to you at a place far away. Tanggua finally understood that this big black fish was usually ostracized by other fish at the bottom of the lake. Just because they were afraid that they would be unlucky if they were too close to him, everyone didn't like him. They were afraid that he would be unlucky, so he, a weak fish, occupied such a good place. Is it because I am too close to you that they call you the big magic fish? Qin Heng was a little uncomfortable, but he still nodded. Ever since I was born, as long as the fish got too close to me, it wouldn't take long for them to have bad luck. Tanggua swam in front of Qin Heng again. He was so scared that he quickly swam back. Don't approach me just because you are curious. If you are unlucky, you will hate me like other fish. You won't play with me and you will call me big magic fish. System, ha 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 ha. I'm dying of laughter. Previously, when he heard that the lake belonged to this fish, he thought that this guy was in charge of the entire lake and was a domineering CEO fish. He never expected that when he said that the lake belonged to him, it turned out that there was a place with him. The other fish did not dare to approach him at all. Wasn't it his? Alright, it was his. Tanggua did not approach him again. Instead, she asked curiously, I don't want to cultivate now. Tell me, what bad things will happen to them if they get close to you? Qin Heng thought about it and said, when I was very young, I played with them in the lake. They always liked to go to the top of the lake. Because there were humans on the top of the lake, I reminded them to be careful. If they were caught by humans like those fish without spiritual intelligence, they would be in danger. He glanced at Tangua. Seeing that she was listening, he said with some hesitation, I didn't expect that they would really be caught by humans. Fortunately, there were elders in their family, so they escaped the disaster and did not become food on the table. Tangua, can it be like that? Chapter 2409. After it rained, they especially liked to jump around the lake. I told them to be careful not to jump up and down. Then they really couldn't jump down. Qin Heng was extremely conflicted. In short, I reminded them to pay attention to any danger, and they always encountered some danger, although in the end, they were all scared but not hurt. This kind of thing happened a lot later. In the end, they thought that I was a big magic fish, so they didn't play with me anymore. They all moved to a more remote place to live. The rest of the place was mine. After hearing Qin Heng's words, Tangguo finally understood what was going on. Qin Heng was not an ordinary carp, but a black koi. Because he didn't know his own ability, and his talent was different from that of the red koi. Whatever the red koi said, it was more likely to be a blessing. There was nothing wrong with saying more nice things. Black koi were different. Once he couldn't control his talent, no matter what he said, it would bring all kinds of trouble to his companions. As he said, it was obviously a kind reminder, but in the end, it really came true. This meant that the big black fish was really a wild fish that wandered into the lake. He didn't even know his own identity, and other fish didn't dare to approach him. Basically, he only had spiritual intelligence, which was very weak. Just now, she felt that although there were many different kinds of fish in the lake, their strength was very weak. Qin Heng had existed for many years, and he could still transform into a human form. His ability was definitely not simple. Qin Heng saw that Tangguo didn't speak, and he was a little depressed. He swam to the place where he lived. After a while, he came back and put 2 closed shells in front of Tangguo. What are these? These are pearls. You should like them. He occasionally secretly observed other fish. The female fish liked this kind of beautiful small pearls very much. White, purple, gold, and black pearls filled the whole shell. It really looked good. Tangguo opened the shell box and saw the round and smooth pearls of different colors inside. She was a little happy. Then I won't be polite. I really like these things. Hearing that she liked them, Qin Heng was a little happy. Big black fish. In the face of Tangguo's sudden appearance in front of him, Qin Heng wanted to retreat but was stopped by her. Don't retreat. I'm the only one in the world who won't be unlucky to get close to you. Because of this sentence, Qin Heng subconsciously stopped retreating. His eyes were full of doubts. Seeing this, Tangguo laughed in her heart. With such a silly look, he still wanted to be her grandfather. His brain was probably not developed well. She swept Qin Heng with her tail and remembered that she should be able to transform into her human form here, so she did. She found a clean stone and sat down. Qin Heng followed her and transformed into his human form. He sat on another stone slab far away and waited for her answer. Do you know what kind of fish I am? When the system heard Tangguo's words, it almost laughed itself to death. Why did it feel that these words were a little childish? It was as if 2 fish without intelligence were conversing. It was too funny. Qin Heng answered honestly, carp. Then what kind of fish are you? I'm also a carp, but our colors are different. You're a red carp, I'm a black carp, but I found that I'm the blackest carp. Qin Heng's voice was a little depressed. Chapter 2410. Although I'm the second best looking fish other than you, my body is really completely black. The other fish in the lake have all said that they have never seen a fish as black as me, so they are even more certain that I'm a big magic fish. They even told their descendants to watch me and not to provoke me. Actually, I don't want to do anything to them." Seeing his aggrieved look, Tangguo couldn't help but sit beside him and touch his head. "Don't be sad, that's because they don't understand fish. You're not an ordinary fish." The system saw that Qing Heng's eyes suddenly became bright, and it was a little speechless. "Dear host, are you going to start scamming the fish?" To be honest, he had never seen a fish cheating another fish. "I'm indeed a red carp, but I'm not an ordinary red carp either." Tangguo raised her chin, looking very proud. "Have you seen a red carp as good-looking as me?" "No." "That's right, because I'm not an ordinary red carp. My talent is that of a koi." "What is a koi?" "It means that when it comes to blessings, it can be efficacious, and it's also called a koi. If there's anything that doesn't go well, they can bring something to me. Maybe if I'm happy, I'll give them a good word, and they'll be able to live a smooth life." After that, she saw that Qing Heng's eyes were a little envious. She pursed her lips and smiled. "So, how can a fish like me, who's full of luck, be unlucky just because I'm close to you?" Qing Heng believed her a little. He thought that there was no need for Tangguo to lie to him. She was so good-looking, it was impossible for her to lie to him. "Guogua, you said that I'm not an ordinary fish, then what talent do I have?" In fact, Qing Heng was not stupid, and he vaguely understood. But since a long time ago, after all kinds of bad things happened, the fish in the lake no longer played with him. Basically, he lived as a fish. Occasionally, he would float up to bask in the sun and listen to what was happening outside. Even many years ago, he was ecstatic to be able to transform into a human form, but he couldn't find any fish to share with. Because they were afraid of him and didn't dare to approach him, he also subconsciously avoided them. Every time he acted alone, he was afraid that he would bring trouble to them. Therefore, he only thought that he might really be a big demon fish and forgot to think about what was wrong with his situation. "Your talent is cursing," Tangguo said seriously. "It's also the kind of ability that is very efficacious. You can still be called a koi, but you have to add the word black in front of your koi name. Black koi means that whatever bad things you say will come true. If you do it on purpose and use magic power, the bad stuff will be 100% accurate. That is to say, if you don't like a fish, you can use some magic on it and curse it that it will be cooked by humans in a while. It will be cooked by humans, and unless there is someone stronger than you, it will not be able to save it." Even though he had guessed it, Qing Heng was still surprised by his own talent. "Because you didn't understand your own abilities when you were young, you couldn't control and release them freely, so you caused misunderstandings. From now on, you should get used to your abilities. That way, you won't make such a mistake again." Qing Heng was a little expectant. "Guogua means that as long as I get used to my own ability, I will be able to control my ability when I speak in the future and won't bring danger to other fish." Chapter 24:11. "That's right," Tangguo replied. "But there are still many things that I don't understand." Qing Heng looked at Tangguo eagerly, as if he didn't understand anything. He looked silly and cute. "Can I ask you for advice? I'll give you all the treasures in the lake. When I can control my power, I can protect you. If anyone bullies Guogua in the future, I'll curse them and put them into a pot of oil. They'll be steamed, braised, boiled, and mixed. System, ha 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 ha." He really knew how to take advantage of the situation. He suspected that this guy was deliberately making him look silly so that he could rely on the host. This guy was really doing this for his wife. He didn't even care about his own kind. Tangguo, from then on, she began her life of raising a big black fish that could curse. She raised it for the rest of her life. No one would believe that as a fish, she still had to raise another fish. After spending about 3 months, Tang Guo helped Qin Heng master his talent. Now, Qin Heng was basically able to control his own talent freely. He would no longer bring danger to his companions just by saying a word. Even so, he didn't think of deliberately mending his relationship with the other fish in the lake. Now that he had a red carp by his side, he felt very satisfied. He didn't want to play with those ordinary fish in the lake at all. He knew that Tang Guo liked treasures, all kinds of beautiful and shiny things. While Tang Guo was cultivating, he would go to the bottom of the lake to look for them when he had nothing to do. Every time Tang Guo woke up, she could see that her body was filled with shells, gems, pearls, and the like. Qin Heng was not weak. Although he occasionally went to look for all kinds of treasures, he didn't want to fall behind when he saw that Tang Guo was working hard to cultivate every day. He didn't forget that he once said to Tang Guo that he would protect her in the future. It seemed that this casual sentence had been imprinted in the depths of his mind after he said it, even in his heart. He never thought of going against it. Then Tang Guo realized that this guy also cultivated the power of the stars. Obviously, he knew about the situation in this world and secretly cheated for himself. Seeing this, she no longer cared about these things and focused on her cultivation. Originally, when she heard the news, she could have gone to find Su Shi to settle the score and expose him as a fickle person. However, her current strength was not strong enough. Although there were few opponents in the mortal realm, she was facing the Celestial Lord, who was in charge of the constellations. If the Heavenly Emperor protected the two of them in the future, she would have to face the entire heaven realm. She could not be careless. Even if he couldn't cultivate to surpass the heaven realm in a short period of time, at least he could protect himself. When he was chased by others, he had to have a way to escape. Guogua, you seem to be very anxious about cultivation. Now, Tang Guo's 3 meals a day were taken care of by Qin Heng. Now that Qin Heng could control his innate ability freely, he liked to transform into his human form from time to time and walk among the humans. After learning that Tang Guo liked to eat human food, he would buy fresh food for her every meal. System, the host really didn't deceive this big black fish for nothing. It's really useful. She was considerate, diligent, good-looking, and very obedient. Well, it's because I'm a fish with a dream. Tang Guo was serious. She subconsciously touched Qin Heng's face and pulled it. Sure enough, it felt good to the touch as always. Not only did Qin Heng not resist, he seemed to like her being so intimate with him. Peak. Chapter 24:12. Have you heard of the carp leaping over Dragon Gate? Qin Heng nodded. Could it be that you want to leap over the Dragon Gate and become an immortal? Yes. Then I'll leap over the Dragon Gate with you. How about that? That would be the best. However, I still have a very powerful enemy. We'll definitely meet in the future. If you want to be with me, you'll have to work hard to cultivate. My enemy is very powerful. If we're not strong enough, we'll only be beaten to death. I'll protect you. Qin Heng looked serious. I'll work hard to cultivate and improve my strength. I'll practice my talent. If I meet Guoguo's enemy in the future, allow me to curse him before we fight. Our chances of winning will be much higher. Qin Heng also knew that the more powerful the curse, the stronger the strength needed. The stronger the person, the easier it would be to curse their weakness. To them, cursing their weakness would be like scratching an itch. Thus, cursing them to die would definitely not work. Thus, he would just curse them to be unlucky. Big black fish, you're getting smarter. Yes, that's it. If I meet anyone in the future, curse them to be unlucky. That way, my chances of winning will be much higher. After receiving the praise, Qing Heng was even more motivated to cultivate. System: how did a stupid black fish become bad? This is how the host taught it to be bad. What did he mean by cursing the other party to be unlucky before fighting? How could he do that? Did he have any shame? As expected of a family, they were all so shameless. In the blink of an eye, a few years had passed. In these few years, Sushi was still apprehensive. Even though a few years had passed, he was still worried. After all, the other party was a spiritual monster. Once she knew the truth, it would be terrible. Now, he and Pei Jiaran already had a son and a daughter. The relationship between the husband and wife was getting better and better. He liked this kind of life very much. He was afraid that one day, such a good life would be ruined by someone. If there was one thing he regretted the most, it would be that year in the temple. He made a promise to Tang Guo that he would go back and marry her when he became the top scholar. He really did not expect to meet the person he was destined to meet in a place like Beijing. Yes, his intuition told him that he and Pei Jiaran were destined to be together. Pei Jiao was as smart as snow. In fact, she had long realized that Sushi had something on his mind. But since Sushi didn't want to say it, she couldn't force him to say it. The main thing was that she could easily tell if Sushi was telling the truth or not. She guessed that the matter in Sushi's heart was definitely not about love. Only then could she be at ease. Especially in a thunderstorm, Sushi, who was sleeping beside her, would be easily awakened. Occasionally, he would have nightmares and would call out, "Don't want it," which made her extremely worried. However, Sushi was unwilling to tell her. The two of them had always been in love, so she really didn't know how to ask. At this time, Tang Guo and Qing Heng had already come out from the bottom of the lake. Her and Qing Heng's strength had reached the limit in the mortal realm. They could not grow any further. If it continued to grow, not only would it attract the attention of the higher-ups, it might even jump out of the human world and go to the heaven realm. In this situation, she did not want to face the two star lords and star officials. She hadn't dealt with Sushi yet. Sushi had been living a happy life for several years, and it should be over now. "Guogua, where are you going?" "I'm going to take revenge for Su Lang." For some reason, when he heard this, Qing Heng suddenly became nervous. Who is Su Lang? Peak. Chapter 24:13. Su Lang. Tang Guo paused for a moment, then said in a long voice, Su Lang was a scholar. Later on, he passed the county-level examination, and then the provincial-level examination. A few years ago, he came to me and told me that he wanted to enter the capital to take the imperial exam. Many years ago, on the day I met you, the people who caught you talked about Su Lang in the temple. They said that Su Lang was killed by bandits on his way to the capital. With Su Lang's knowledge, if he was not killed, even if he did not become the top scholar, he could still become the second or third scholar. If it were not for those hateful bandits, Su Lang would have come back to marry me after he passed the imperial exam. System, very bad. Is that so? Qing Heng felt a little uncomfortable. What kind of person is Su Lang? Does he treat Guogua well? Will he find all kinds of beautiful treasures for Guogua like me? Does he have the ability to protect Guogua? If someone bullies Guogua, will he help Guogua teach them a lesson? System, ha 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 ha. Are you jealous now? Su Lang does not have the ability to go down the lake every day to find treasures for me. Tang Guo looked at Qing Heng's relieved expression and said, but he will ask someone to change the water in the water tank every day. Guogua lives in my house now. The lake is so big and the inside of the barrier is flowing water. There is no need to change it. Su Lang will go down the mountain to buy beautiful clothes and delicious food for me. I will buy Guogua's clothes and 3 meals for you every day. Qin Heng said pitifully, as if he was saying that he could also do these things. He did it himself and did it every day. When it was time for meals, he would send it to her on time. Why do you only remember Su Lang's kindness and not how good this fish is to me? Tang Guo coughed and continued, Su Lang will make me happy. Is Guogua not happy living in the lake? Tang Guo, happy. Qin Heng looked at her in disbelief. Su Lang was just an ordinary person. If he could do it, he could do it. If Su Lang could not do it, he could do it. Su Lang also said that after he passed the imperial exam, he will come back and marry me. Qin Heng's face was about to fall. I can do it too. I don't need any scholarly honors. What did you say? Tang Guo glanced at Qin Heng. What did you say? I can marry you too. Guogua, you're a red carp, and I'm a black carp. There are no racial boundaries. As the ancient saying goes, when humans and demons fall in love, one of them has to make a sacrifice. Either the human becomes a demon, or the demon has to give up on cultivation and sever its ties with the human. When it starts cultivating again in the future, it will also be a heavy price to pay. But we are different. Red carp and black carp are really the best match, and we are both talented fish. Qin Heng was very serious. I can't think of anyone in this world who is more compatible than us. Su Lang is a mere mortal. If he can't protect Guogua in any danger, I can. Guogua wants revenge. He can't help you, but I can. Guogua wants to leap over the dragon gate and become an immortal, but she can't live forever. Su Lang can't accompany you, but I can. Tang Guo could not help but ask, Big Black Carp, are you really a few thousand years old? I think, you are just a small fish that has been around for a few decades. A few years ago, you wanted to be my grandfather, and now you want to marry me. Qin Heng did not know what to say. His eyes suddenly lit up and he finally said, Su Lang has a lot of concerns, but my world only has you. Chapter 24:14. Even if I can't marry you, you're the only one in my world. Anyone who heard such pure and serious words would not have the heart to tease him anymore. Tang Guo was the same. She smiled faintly and looked at him with curved eyes. I know. I'm just going to avenge Su Lang so that his promise is not in vain. I don't have any other intentions. Qin Heng's mood improved a lot. All right, I'll go with you. Tang Guo took Qin Heng to the road to the capital. After walking out of the town for 3 days, they encountered the scene of bandits robbing and killing merchants. At this time, she naturally had to make a move. She killed all the bandits, leaving only the leader alive, and asked him to take her to the mountain top. When she found their stronghold, she put on an act and asked who killed Su Shi. Not to mention that the bandits did not kill Su Shi. Even if they did kill Su Shi, they would take many lives every month. How could they remember? These were all outlaws, the kind who only wanted to get rich by robbing. They were not the kind of bandits with the surname Qing. Not only did they rob, but they also took the women to the mountains as captives and killed all the men. So, they were not good people. Tang Guo did not have any psychological burden when killing them. In a short 3 days, she took Qin Heng to all the nearby strongholds and killed all the bandits. After killing all the bandits, they almost reached the capital. Now that I've avenged Su Lang, let's go to the capital for a stroll. After a while, we'll go back and continue to cultivate. Qin Heng saw that Tang Guo wasn't sad about the death of the so-called Su Lang. He understood that she was only here to avenge Su Lang, so she probably did not like him very much. Maybe she used to like him, but she definitely did not like him now. He was secretly happy and quickly agreed. When it came to the process, Tang Guo calculated the time and waited until the day Su Shi saw her. She asked Qing Heng to help her buy things, and she went to the restaurant for a meal. Not long after, even though she was burying her head, because she put some of her thoughts upstairs, her strength was much stronger than the original owner's at this time. She could easily sense Su Shi's aura. As soon as Su Shi saw her, he subconsciously took a step forward. Someone beside him asked curiously, "Prince Consort, what's wrong?" "No, nothing. Maybe I drank too much just now." Su Shi casually found an excuse and stepped into the room again, pretending to be drunk. "Take a seat first." "Prince Consort, why don't I ask someone to bring a palanquin over?" Originally, Su Shi didn't need a palanquin wherever he went. He was not the kind of person who was ostentatious and lofty. Even after becoming the emperor's son-in-law, he still got along well with his old friends. He didn't put on airs, so he was more popular. "All right, then get someone to bring me a sedan chair." When the servant heard Su Shi say this, he thought that he must be really drunk. If he wasn't drunk, the prince consort wouldn't even be able to sit on the sedan chair a few times a year. The servants hurriedly went to prepare the palanquin. Su Shi and his good friend were in the private room. He didn't look too good, which made his good friend very worried. He thought that not only was he drunk, his body could suddenly fall ill. "We'll go back to the attached room later. Brother Su, it's better to call a doctor to take your pulse." Don't worry. Su Shi responded. He knew that his good friend was concerned about him. The other party knew his alcohol tolerance very well. He shouldn't be drunk after drinking that little, so he might as well pretend to be sick. Chapter 24:15. That's right, he had been pretending to be sick and not leaving the residence recently. Now, he could ask someone to spread the news that he was sick. No one would find it strange that he suddenly fell sick. Actually, he was shocked and scared. Why did she come to the capital? Did she know that he had lied to her? No, that couldn't be. If she really knew the truth, she wouldn't be eating here. She would have gone directly to the princess residence to find trouble with him. So, was it a coincidence that she came to the capital, or was she deliberately investigating something else? Su Shi had a vague guess in his heart. Could it be that she knew that he was dead and wanted to find the real murderer to help him take revenge? Thinking of this possibility, Su Shi's heart was very complicated. That's right, she once said that she stayed in the temple's water tank to cultivate because she didn't know how far her house was from there. Because with her ability, she couldn't leave the water for too long, or her life would be in danger. The reason why she came to the capital after so many years was probably because her ability was enough to survive on land and her life wouldn't be in danger because of lack of water. The more he thought, the more complicated and panicked Su Shi's heart was. The complicated thing was that she actually came to help him take revenge. This was something he didn't expect. The panicked thing was that as long as they met, the lie would be exposed. Now that she was so powerful, who knew what would happen if she knew the truth? Thinking of his beloved princess and his pair of adorable children, Su Shi's heart was very confused. No matter what, he absolutely couldn't meet her. Halfway, Su Shi used the excuse of going to the toilet and secretly glanced downstairs. Seeing that Tang Guo was still eating in the hall, he nervously came back. From time to time, he used the excuse of going to the toilet. His friends completely believed that there was something wrong with his body. Because of this, Su Shi simply used the excuse that his stomach wasn't feeling well. The servants had already found a palanquin, but because Tang Guo was downstairs, he didn't dare to go down. Tang Guo was almost done eating. She guessed that Su Shi was basically frightened by her appearance. She noticed that he was peeking at her from time to time. His heart was beating faster, his face was pale, and his eyes were flustered. Her appearance this time was enough. When Tangguo left the hall, Sushi was completely exhausted. As if he had been drowned, his forehead was full of sweat. The servants and his friends were frightened. Seeing that Sushi was no longer going to the toilet, they hurriedly helped him into the sedan. After returning to the princess's residence, Sushi was really sick this time. His illness was not light, and there was no need to pretend anymore. It was also because Tangguo stayed in the living room for a much longer period of time than in the script. She even released her aura from time to time, which gave Sushi pressure and made him sick. Sushi fell seriously ill for more than half a month. His illness this time had frightened the Su family and the entire princess residence. Pei Jiaoren was still the emperor's most beloved princess. Knowing that Sushi was seriously ill, she even sent an imperial physician to stay in the princess residence to treat him. This illness took about a month to recover. During this period, Sushi did not forget to instruct his confidant to investigate Tangguo. He only knew that Tangguo was strolling around the capital every day. It didn't seem like she was looking for him, but he didn't dare to let his guard down. It wasn't until he found out that all the bandits on the road from the capital to his old town had died inexplicably that he came to a realization. Vertex. Chapter 24:16. She was indeed here to avenge him. Now that she had avenged him, she was probably curious about the capital and wanted to stay for a while longer. Sushi thought that his guess was right and ordered people to keep an eye on the city gate. If Tangguo left and did not return, he was to inform her. They did not have to wait for long. Tangguo thought that it was about time and brought Qingheng out of the city gate. On the day that Sushi found out, he felt refreshed and relieved. He thought that he did not have to worry anymore. Tangguo would definitely not return. She believed that he was dead, and she avenged him. The fate between the two of them was broken. Pei Jiaoren also realized that after Sushi fell ill, he seemed to have let go of something. It was as if he had let go of the things in his heart. Although she did not know what was going on, Pei Jiaoren was relieved. Not long after Tangguo and Qingheng left the capital, they were stopped by someone. This person was obviously burly, but he wore a Daoist robe and held a horsetail whisk in his hand. He pretended to be a profound person, but he did not have the aura of an expert at all. He looked very out of place. He stopped Tangguo and Qingheng with his horsetail whisk and smiled at Tangguo. Do you think that your fate with the mortal world is over? Do you think that you can become an immortal and attain the Tao just by leaving and concentrating on cultivation? How naive. It was very difficult for demons to attain the Tao and become an immortal. They either cultivated hard for thousands of years or met with a fortuitous encounter. The luckiest was to be chosen by an immortal and be recommended to become an immortal servant or a mount of an immortal. Any proud demon would not be willing to be ordered around by others, even if it was an immortal. But there were also those who did not care about these things in order to attain the Tao and become an immortal. Everyone had their own ideas. What nonsense are you talking about? Tangguo did not seem to believe the Daoist's words. You ugly Daoist, what nonsense are you talking about? The Daoist's expression turned slightly ferocious, but he still controlled himself and continued, You came to the capital this time to avenge someone. The Daoist thought that when he said this, Tangguo would be shocked and ask him how he knew about it. Then, he would be able to tell her what he wanted to say. He would tell her that Sushi had deceived her and asked someone to spread false news of his death. Only then would he be able to marry the high and mighty princess and enjoy a life of luxury. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, Tangguo sent him flying with a slap on his face. You stinky Taoist priest, how dare you spy on my whereabouts? The Taoist priest was the Black Bear spirit Ban Tai in disguise. He really did not understand what he had said wrong to be sent flying by the other party's sleeve. He wanted to explain, but Tangua had already chased after him and sent him flying with a kick. She kicked him directly into a tree trunk, making him dizzy and his eyes a little blurry. He then heard her say, "You Taoist priest, you secretly followed me. Are you up to no good? Tell me, do you want to rape me or kill the fish for its inner core?" No, no. This was different from what he had imagined. "Big black fish, help me beat him up. Beat him hard. He covets my beauty and spies on my whereabouts. I don't know what he wants to do. Anyway, he must be up to no good. Let's beat him up first." Qing Heng naturally listened to Tangua. He rolled up his sleeves and hit Bantai, who was about to explain. "Big black fish, if there is such a person who covets me and bullies me in the future, you can beat him up like this. Don't think about anything. Just beat him up." Qing Heng quickly nodded. "I will remember. System, you've taught him the wrong things, you've taught him the wrong things." After a long time, Tangua asked Qing Heng to stop. She crossed her arms and looked down at Bantai, who had been beaten up like a pig's head. "Tell me honestly, why are you spying on my whereabouts? Don't lie. If you lie, I will throw you to feed the fish." Peek. Chapter 24:17. At this moment, Bantai felt pain all over his body. Before he could say anything, he tried to stop the fish. Unexpectedly, he was beaten up by the fish. Even though he was fuming with anger, he did not forget his task. Bantai cried out in pain. Thinking of how violent the fish was, not only did it beat him up, but it also called for help. Fearing that the other party would be impatient, Bantai quickly told him his purpose. "I didn't peek into the secrets of heaven by chance. I know that you, the carp spirit, are involved with a mortal named Su Shi. Now you have to go back and concentrate on your cultivation. Do you know that Su Shi is not dead at all? If Su Shi is not dead, the mortal bond between you is not broken. If you accidentally find out about this, it will give birth to inner demons. Won't it affect your cultivation? I was just reminding you out of kindness. I didn't expect that you, the unreasonable carp spirit, would attack me as soon as you came up. If I had known this, I wouldn't have spoken." Bantai's appearance was very realistic. At first glance, there seemed to be no loopholes. Don't talk about the original owner who was pure and didn't know how to beat around the bush. Even if it was someone with a high IQ, even if it was someone as smart as Snow, if they knew that the person they thought was dead wasn't dead and that they had even avenged him, they probably wouldn't be able to remain calm. Once his mind was in a mess and he became excited, he would subconsciously ignore many details. He just wanted to turn around and figure it out. "You said that Su Shi is not dead." Tangua pretended to be surprised and looked a little incredulous, which made Bantai feel relieved. He even stroked his pitiful beard with his big palm, but he did not know that such a gesture would make people laugh. Not only is Su Shi not dead, but he is also living a happy life now. Only a pure little spirit like you would believe those lies. Bantai did not know who the mysterious person was, but the other party helped him heal his injuries, which would have taken him hundreds of years to recover, in an instant. Not only that, but he also gave him a lot of benefits. In fact, after being seriously injured by his enemy, even if he hated Su Shi for robbing him of the opportunity, he knew that the lifespan of a mortal was only a few decades. At most, he could only live for hundreds of years. It was basically impossible for him to take revenge. Before he met that mysterious man, he had never thought of finding trouble with this carp demon. Spiritual monsters cultivated freedom according to the law of the jungle. Treasures that grew in the mountains would belong to whoever was stronger. Just take this wisdom fruit tree for example. Didn't he snatch it from other spiritual monsters? But now that he had come out and had the help of the mysterious man, he had the strength to deal with the carp spirit. Naturally, he would not let Su Shi and the carp spirit go. The mysterious man easily healed his injuries and gave him all kinds of treasures, including a fruit of wisdom. Not only did he make up for all his losses, but he also made a profit. The mysterious man wanted him to destroy the relationship between Su Shi and Princess Peijiaran. He also said that if he succeeded, he would give him another great opportunity. There was no reason for him to not agree. Even if he had to curry favor with the mysterious man for the sake of his benefits, he had to do it perfectly. He also vaguely understood the meaning of a mysterious person. As long as he could destroy the marriage between Su Shi and Peijiaran, it wouldn't matter even if he had to kill Su Shi. This reminder made Bantai even happier. In that case, he could kill both of them. After all, they were the ones who snatched his wisdom fruit first. He had a reason to kill them. Chapter 24:18. You're lying. Su Lang was killed by bandits. Of course, Tanghua can't just listen to Bantai and believe his words. In the eyes of humans, the black bear spirit should be very clumsy. In fact, it was the opposite. The black bear spirit, who had no moral integrity and was like a fence-sitter, was actually very smart. If she believed him directly, he would be suspicious. As for the grudge between her and the black bear spirit, it could not be resolved. Regardless of whether it was the scheme of the two Lord of Stars or not, it was the black bear spirit who killed the original owner of her body. It was impossible for her not to take revenge. Besides, the black bear spirit was probably thinking about how to kill her. In the plot, after the black bear spirit killed the original owner of her body, he devoured her spiritual power and dug out her inner core. How could she let him go? Bantai felt that the surroundings were cold. That cold feeling was like a sharp knife that was about to pierce his heart. But when he tried to catch it, there was nothing left. He looked up. The sun was still high in the sky and the surroundings were still hot. He subconsciously looked at Tanghua and saw that she was frowning. Obviously, she suspected that he was lying. He remembered that something was wrong. The one in front of him was a carp spirit. Carp spirits should live in the water. According to the mysterious man, the carp spirit's strength should be similar to his. But the mysterious man gave him many elixirs. As long as he took them every day and focused on cultivation, it would not take long for him to surpass the carp spirit. It would be easy for him to suppress the carp spirit. Mainly, the mysterious man only ordered him to destroy the carp spirit. Obviously, the carp spirit in front of him was more powerful. Otherwise, under such a hot sun, the other party should feel uncomfortable. But she did not look uncomfortable at all. It was obvious that she was more powerful than the mysterious man said. And the man in black beside her. The mysterious man did not say that she had other people with her. Although he could feel that the other party was not human, he could not see through the other party's body. It was obvious that the other party's strength was not below his. So if he wanted to kill the carp spirit, he had to be stronger than the two of them. Black Bear carefully pondered and felt that this matter could not be rushed. First, he would sow discord between Su Shi and Peijiaran. Then, he would go to the mysterious man and ask for some treasures to deal with the two of them. Then, he would find an opportunity to burn them to death. Although he didn't know who this black-clothed man was, he could tell from the faintly discernible aura of water that he should be a spirit that lived in the water. Dealing with the monsters in the water was the easiest. After tying them up and burning them with alchemic fire for a while, there would be nothing left. The black bear spirit thought that he had concealed it well, but he did not expect that Tanghua had already noticed the flash of ferocity in his eyes. "You're just a little carp demon. What good would it do for me to lie to you?" Bantai snorted coldly and said angrily, I only helped you out of kindness because I thought that it wasn't easy for you to cultivate and that you haven't done anything evil. If you don't believe me, come with me to the princess residence and we'll know if it's true." At this time, Tanguy naturally took advantage of the situation and said, "Okay, then I'll go with you to the princess residence. If you're lying, I'll make you suffer." Chapter 24:19. Bantai brought Tanguy and Qingheng to the princess's residence. When the three of them arrived at the princess's residence, they directly jumped onto the wall and happened to see Sushi talking and laughing with Page Yarin in the courtyard. Page Yarin was painting, and Sushi seemed to be helping her grind the ink. The two of them were in perfect harmony. After being married for so many years, their feelings for each other did not fade. Instead, they became more and more inseparable. Sushi was also relieved because he thought that Tanguy would never come back when she left the capital. Now that he was with Page Yarin, he no longer had any psychological burden. From his smile, there was satisfaction, joy, and happiness. "Look, isn't that the Su you're looking for? I didn't lie to you, did I?" Bantai had been observing Tanguy's expression. When he saw that she kept staring at Sushi without blinking, he knew that she was angry. "You unreasonable carp spirit, look. If I didn't remind you, who knows where you would go to cry if something went wrong with your cultivation in the future because of this mortal." Tanguy retracted her gaze and looked at Bantai's face. "Then I have to thank you for reminding me. There's no need for that. I just don't like people like you who are fickle and ungrateful. Sushi owes you a debt of gratitude. Back then, he promised that he would come back to marry you and grow old together with you. Who would have thought that he would be blinded by wealth after coming to this bustling capital? He forgot about his promise and almost affected your cultivation. I just couldn't stand it and reminded you." Bantai sighed and said, "You already know the truth of the matter. It's up to you what you want to do. The mortal fate between the two of you is endless. If you can't let go of this matter, it will be detrimental to your cultivation." He was instigating Tanguy to kill Sushi. "Thank you for your kindness, Taoist priest. I just saw that you looked wretched and didn't look like a good person. I thought you were a lecherous lecher, so I came up and beat you up." Tanguy said apologetically, but in fact, her words were enough to anger several people to death. Bantai almost could not help but transform into his true form and attack. What did he mean by saying he looked wretched and did not look like a good person? Did he think he was a lecher? This carp demon was really annoying. He had to think of a way to kill her and dig out her inner core for cultivation. Qingheng felt the malice from Bantai and subconsciously shielded Tanguy behind him. His actions brought Bantai back to his senses. He leaped down from the wall and said, "You guys settle it yourselves. Each of you has your own methods. I'll leave first." In order to make Tanguy believe that he was really an expert, he even used the earth shrinking technique. Just this movement technique alone would cost him quite a bit of demonic power. He didn't go far. Instead, he chose a place to wait for things to happen. At that time, regardless of whether Tanguy captured Sushi or killed Sushi or the princess, he would definitely have a chance to make a move. He had already thought of the plan long ago. He was just waiting for everything to develop according to his plan. Tanguy did not disappoint Bantai. After he left, she did not go down directly because she felt a pair of pitiful eyes like a stray dog. Guogua, he's a liar. This kind of shameless human who is full of lies, fickle-minded, and greedy for wealth is not worthy of you. He married the princess of the mortal world and has 2 children. Qingheng said a few words nervously. He was afraid that Tanguy was angry, and he was even more afraid that she had not forgotten Sushi. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.